What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. We have another trailer reaction, and one that I'm personally really excited about. This is an action-packed first look at the upcoming film dropping this April called Boy Kills World, starring Bill Skarsgård. And I pulled up a synopsis here that I'm going to read for you. It states that Skarsgård stars as a boy who vows revenge after his family is murdered by Hilda Vanderkoy, the deranged matriarch of a corrupt post-apocalyptic dynasty that left the boy orphaned, deaf, and voiceless. Now driven by his inner voice, one which he opted from his favorite childhood video game, Boy trains with a mysterious shaman to become an instrument of death and is set loose on the eve of the annual culling of dissidents. It finishes by saying bedlam ensues as Boy commits bloody martial arts mayhem, inciting a wrath of carnage and bloodletting. As he tries to get his bearings in this delirious realm, Boy soon falls in with a desperate resistance, all the while bickering with the apparent ghost of his rebellious little sister. Now, as previously mentioned, the film stars Bill Skarsgård, but it's also being directed by Moritz Moore. Some of the other cast members that you might recognize or names that you might be familiar with include Shel Dockery, Famke Janssen, Jessica Roth, Brett Gelman, and Sharlto Copley, among others. There's others that are a part of this film as well. But the film is being teased as an action-packed ride, and from the tiny glimpse that I saw in kind of the brief intro to the trailer, it looks like that is very much the case. I'm excited for an action-packed thrill ride. And I can't wait to share that experience with you guys. So without further ado, if you enjoy this kind of content, trailer reactions, breakdowns, all that kind of stuff, be sure to drop a like on this video as it greatly helps out the channel. Subscribe if you're new here, all that good YouTube stuff. And without further ado, let's get into the trailer. Bill Skarsgård.
This was never a great city, but it was ours.
Are you with me? Always.
Until Hilda Vanderkoy took it from us. This is how she keeps control. They call
that voice sounds familiar. Is that?
They're all gonna watch and cheer.
Is that the voice of Archer?
That's me, facing televised execution by breakfast cereal mascots.
Is it? It's gotta be, right?
Happiest day.
I'd know that voice anywhere.
An even worse one. The day the Vanderkoys killed my family and left me deaf and mute. So, I made a three-step plan. Step 1, give myself an inner voice.
I feel like we all have one of those.
Remembered from this video game. Player 1 wins. Step 2, get stronger. A lot stronger. And step 3, join a team.
Dude, that gauntlet is sick.
Welcome to the Resistance.
Yeah, go team. The mission is simple. Make the Vanderkoys pay for what they have done.
Kind of get Kill Bill vibes from this
Crazy
trailer.
Montage.
You know what I mean? Sam Raimi.
Now comes the hard part.
You know how hard it is to get a cereal company to sponsor mass murder?
Frosty Puffs.
Wow.
I love it.
Plan time.
I don't like this plan.
Yeah, I feel like Bill Skarsgård is actually like the perfect casting for this. Physically, I feel like there's very few that could pull this off.
I have information. I'm gonna help you. Stop!
I don't think he made it.
Nobody wasn't gonna help us.
Definitely sounded like he was gonna help us.
That's definitely the voice of Archer. All right, guys, so we finally got the first trailer for Boy Kills World. And one thing that's interesting that I want to point out off the jump from this trailer is that if you go and look up the film and, just to, get insight on the cast and, the general story of the movie, it looks like the film has already dropped in 2013 or 2023. So I'm not exactly sure if the film was already released on another platform before it came to theaters, which wouldn't make any sense to me because then it also states that the film is supposed to drop on April 26, 2024. So I'm not exactly sure if maybe the film was already screened earlier. Maybe some people got, early screenings to the film months before. As you can see here, this film takes place in a kind of dystopian fever dream, And you can clearly see that from the glimpse of, you know, kind of the first initial look at the trailer here. When you get the first kind of glance at the world, you can clearly see that this is kind of this dystopian civilization that we're seeing. And obviously things aren't run very well. You know, it seems like it's definitely, you know, things aren't going well for the people that live there. And it's kind of seems like it's a tough time. Now, with every revenge story, as you can imagine, it has to start with some level of tragedy, which is likely why we're seeing this kind of, we're seeing this beginning, at the beginning of the trailer to kind of set the tone for what you can expect in this kind of revenge action thriller. And in order to really appease the audience in terms of understanding kind of the emotional context of the story, we have to have some sort of traumatic incident. And obviously, as you can see, it's being run by this kind of militaristic group who will kind of be the focal point of the main character's, aggression. In at about 11 seconds, as you can see here, we see the video game that obviously a young Bill Skarsgård's character, who seems to be just named Boy in the movie, just the story of Boy, who's played by Skarsgård. As we already previously stated, and as is stated in the trailer itself, the boy is both deaf and mute, and kind of reverts back to a time, when he was young, playing one of his favorite video games with his little sister, and this is what allows him to kind of create this inner voice. But we actually get to see a glimpse of that game, which I'm assuming is this game called Super Dragon Punch Force. 3 Super Dragon Punch Force 3, which sounds amazing. I used to love going to arcades that had a bunch of these games set up. You throw some quarters in there and you have an absolute blast. So instantly seeing this image, I can kind of connect with the character a little bit. And I think when anyone experiences some significant amount of trauma in their life, it kind of forces us to revert back to a time that brings us peace, safety, and solidarity. So I definitely could see why he chooses this particular moment. And we kind of get a glimpse of that in the trailer, this moment that he has playing video games, one of his favorite video games, with his sister. So this is pretty cool. And as you can see, he's obviously very close with his sister, and this is going to fuel a lot of the rage throughout the film. One thing that is very interesting that I also want to point out is that this little boy here, which is ironic that this trailer dropped today, the little boy here that we can see is none other than Cameron Crovetti. And what's interesting about this is Cameron Crovetti is actually the boy, the young son of Homelander in The Boys. So he'll be in Boys season 4. He was obviously a big part of The Boys season 3. And, so we're going to see a lot of him in the upcoming season that just got announced. We just got confirmation that the upcoming season of The Boys season 4 is going to be dropping on June 13th. So I think it's ironic that we're also seeing Cameron Crovetti in this role too. So he's going to obviously, it looks like he's going to play the young boy. So like I said, we don't really know the name. I don't think the character that Bill Skarsgård's character really has a name, or just identified as Boy. And so Cameron Crovetti's character is young Boy, who we potentially might be seeing some possibly some flashbacks during the film. So I also really love this transition, kind of taking it back from when he was young and then instantly transitioning here into the current state of Boy, who obviously has experienced some trauma. He's seen some things, and then we go right into a frame of this group who is obviously going to be the target of Skarsgård's character throughout the film. Then you have your first look at Famke Janssen, who you might recognize from films like Taken. You might also recognize her from Jean Grey or Phoenix in the X-Men film series. So we get our first look of her in the film as well. Then we have this interesting moment with the pineapple. I'm not sure what the pineapple has to signify in this film. At least it wasn't really revealed to me, or at least something that I understood outright. But from looking at this image, it seems like this is potentially highlighting a bit of the more outlandish nature of the film. I think this is a moment in the film where they potentially are filming a commercial, and this is probably going to be a major set piece or action sequence within the film. And Pineapple Pow is somehow, some way going to be related to all of it, which I think is going to be probably one of the funnier moments in the film. Then there's this beautiful parallel that you see in the trailer that obviously sees Bill Skarsgård's Boy being dragged out through a facility by some of the guards that we see at the beginning of the film. And then that kind of goes back into a flashback where once again we see young boy, played by Cameron Cravetti, and his sister being dragged by this group. And as they see their mother, who I'm assuming this is their mother, being dragged away by that same group. And like I said, this is really just all creating that emotional tension that we see within, from the beginning of the film, or the beginning of the trailer to the very end of the trailer, and a lot of that is really just putting us in the shoes of Boy and giving us a deep understanding and interpretation of his motivations, his goals, and exactly why he's going after this group. And obviously they took something from him, and I think that's something that we can all relate to. I think that's really pulls at the heartstrings, especially when you see that happen, and you're witnessing that as an audience and seeing that sort of situation happen to a family member. You can really connect with the character a lot more and a lot quicker than you might for some other characters that maybe want revenge for whatever reason. So seeing the fact that they took his mother, took his sister, it makes it a lot easier to connect with the character and understand why he sets off on this bloody path of revenge, following the murder of his family. Now, this part is interesting too, because we get to see the three faces of, I'm assuming, the heads or the leaders of this potential group, and probably some of the faces that we're going to see get absolutely demolished and decapitated. Obviously, Famke Janssen's character seems to be the leader of this group, and so she's probably going to be the last one that Boy ends up dealing with. But the other three definitely seem to be kind of heads of this group, and probably some of the sole people responsible for a lot of his emotional turmoil. And so we're probably going to see him create some sort of hit list, right? And that's kind of what you see through this interesting montage of the character of Boy, starting off as a boy and quickly growing into his own, following his 3-step plan in which he, seeks to attain strength in order for him to achieve his mission. We then get another shot at this dystopian civilization that we see. We get another shot once again, a much quicker shot this time around at the Super Dragon Punch, or Super Punch Force Dragon 3. I don't know how to say it, which is obviously one of his, favorite games. It's where we get a lot of the narration from. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see a character that does not have vocal lines portray a lot of his emotion. A lot of his emotion is going to come through the dialogue of his inner voice, which I think is so great that it's played, I believe it's played by the same voice actor who voiced Archer. It's just such an iconic voice. I feel like I'd know it anywhere. I think Bob Belcher, I think, forgive me if I'm wrong in saying that, but that's definitely the voice that I could hear the most. We get another look at the actual game, another, some bonding moments, which like I said, I think we're going to see a lot of flashbacks in this movie leaning back to moments that are fueling his current motivations and decisions. And so I think we're going to see a lot of moments like that. Like I said, we see some of these transitions. Another cool transition. This film has a lot of great transitions that I think provide a lot of context into the character. So we see him pulling this log as a young boy, that instantly transitions to him pulling the log as an adult, who's spent obviously a lot of time honing his skills, getting stronger in preparation for him to do what needs to be done. And it's kind of really cool. It's kind of this Mr. Miyagi situation, as you can see, as he's pulling this older man, who I'm assuming either is a someone who brings him in, someone who either trains him, or maybe someone who kind of does both and gives him the strength and the knowledge and the courage in order for him to be able to carry out his task. So definitely going to be a key figure in this film. And you can see him pulling the young boy up, or actually I don't think that's him at all. You can see his older self pulling up his younger self, which again is just, I think, really illustrates a lot of what we're going to see in this film is existing inside of Boy's own mind. And so we're seeing him kind of pull himself up by his bootstraps, his younger self, as he now has attained the strength in order to do that. Of course, you got to get the classic ab shot here, as you can see, just so we can get a physical manifestation of just how strong he has become. You can see his kind of Mr. Miyagi sort of training happening here. I love the when he says cue the training montage. I can almost imagine this film breaking through the fourth wall a little bit and kind of mentioning and discussing moments that are happening within the film directly to the audience, which I think is pretty cool. So we're seeing a little close quarter combat training, just preparing him for this moment that he's gonna, that's gonna be a real life or death situation. A little running jump attack, which is pretty cool. And then of course we get one of the best shots in the trailer. We get the moment where he's holding the gauntlet, which just looks so badass. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I don't know if it's the gauntlet or if it's the puffer vest, the red puffer vest. I don't know. When I first saw this moment, it just kind of felt like he was, gearing up for a Michael Jackson Thriller video. You know what I mean? I don't know what that is. Let me know what you get from this moment. But I love, we get these two characters that we haven't really seen up to this point, while Boy is just completely locked in, ready to just go to town. And this is obviously the squad. We'll get what is it, kind of a split screen look at his squad members who are going to be kind of really important in terms of him achieving his goal. Both of these characters, you can imagine, are going to have specific talents. I would assume the character on the right, probably really good with weaponry, probably just a very John Wick-esque character. And then you got the one on the left who might be more of a brute, really hands-on and probably somewhat psychotic, which, every good team needs a character that is, slightly crazy. And so moving on from there, we get the kind of the end of the trailer where we see Boy reaching his destination, and a lot of the action is probably going to take place in the film. And again, another one of those classic flashbacks to seeing young Boy kind of struggle with this situation. And what you can see here in this particular moment, you can see that, I don't know if this is the same guy. You can see there's a guy on the left who clearly, he could just be a homeless man. He could just be, someone of no consequence, necessarily in this trailer, or he could be a pivotal part of this movie. I think it's yet to be seen. I don't think it's really mentioned that much in this trailer. But what I like and what I really want to point out here is just the pop of color in the background. You see this really just vibrant pinkish hue from, I don't know if that's the cherry blossoms. And then you see these just yellow banners, which you can see the family standing directly underneath one of the banners, and, which just kind of pulls your eyes toward the center, which I think is really cool. And you can kind of see the soldiers lined up in a way that funnels and focuses your attention on the family here. You can see young Boy, you can see his sister right next to him, and his mother right next to her. And obviously in this moment when he's clinching, very much feels reminiscent of The Boys, which is interesting. This face is one that I've seen a few times on The Boys, so that's kind of what just gets me to think about that show. But this is obviously the moment in which his mother and sister are both executed. And again, just taking us back to a lot of that emotion or turmoil, which then brings us back to the current state of being for Boy, where he's absolutely Ramboing throughout this facility, which would probably potentially be the end of the movie, or it might actually be one of the first targets that he goes after. The film being directed or being produced by Sam Raimi is just another reason that I'm excited about this film. I feel like anything Sam Raimi has put out has been absolutely phenomenal. Obviously I got wind of him back in the Spider-Man days, and ever since then have kind of kept up with his career and the different films that he's been a part of. And so, obviously you can see here just a little bit of a little portfolio here of some of the projects that you might recognize, right? Evil Dead, Don't Breathe, and the Grudge. And then of course you can't go and talk about an action thriller trailer like this without actions and thrills. And so that's exactly what we get. This obviously seems to be a very physical kind of role for Bill Skarsgård, but one that I almost feel like is perfectly made for someone like him, someone who really gets into the thick of it, has the physicality to produce the action necessary for a role like this. So I feel like it's a solid casting in my opinion. Then we got to talk about this helmet, which I think is really cool. Obviously, Boy is going to be taking on one of these characters. I don't know if this is some sort of elite or just another kind of grunt type of, character for him to take on. But I just love the helmet in this kind of futuresque dye image on there, which I think is just perfectly suited. It looks like it's going to be a pretty sick one-on-one. And again, this is not this is what tells me that it's not just a regular grunt, because the way that he has to lift this lift this character up off the dinner table and then immediately dodge like this, look how swift this character is. Mid-air pulls out a hatchet or some sort of knife in an attempt to stab Boy, and he narrowly escapes an untimely death, which I think is really cool. Again, just highlighting that physicality, highlighting some of the choreographed fights in this moment. Again, looking at, in this scene, we get a look at some of his crew. He mentions this is the hard part. And then this is probably where we're going to see a lot of the action in this kind of, I think they crash a commercial or something like that, which is pretty sick. Some incredible acrobatics, some incredible physicality, some incredible stunts. Yeah, this seems to be, this movie seems to have it all. And again, you get a moment here in the trailer where you see one of the 3 heads, or one of the 4 heads that we saw at the beginning of the trailer brought back. Again, this is not just your average everyday enemy. This is going to be someone that obviously has a big role in the film, and someone that, you know, Boy is going to be directly targeting. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Then we get a little image of this commercial that's being filmed where they're all just getting their asses handed to them by Boy and his crew. Frosty Puffs presents The Culling, which I just think is so perfect, as it not only relates to potentially the cereal, I think it's a cereal commercial, but also relates to the moments that are happening at the same time. This also could be just a poignant commentary, just kind of poking fun at the situation as well. As like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this film, or the inner voice of, you know, the inner voice of Boy's mind is not directly addressing the audience. And again, that's pretty much it, guys. That's all the stuff that I really wanted to point out. As you can see from this trailer, there's going to be a lot of action. You know, there's going to be deep emotional story as well. But I feel like it really is focusing on that action through a ride. You know, and like I said, a deaf and mute character who sets out on a bloody path of revenge following the murder of his family. I don't know. It kind of feels like Ted in a way, right? Where Ted just was this unhinged voice who provided a lot of insight. And obviously I know you know, those are different projects, but I just say in the realm of having this unhinged voice kind of say what we all are kind of thinking at the same time, and simultaneously address the audience, which I think is pretty cool. So this film is definitely one that I really look forward to, one that I, you know, definitely want to talk about more. And it drops in April, so I don't know if we're gonna get another trailer for it before the film drops, but hopefully, you know, I guess we'll see. But maybe early April, late March, but we'll see. Anyway, guys, that is my trailer breakdown. If you enjoyed the content, you like the insight for this trailer and you want to see more of it, please drop a like on this video, as it greatly helps out the channel. Subscribe if you're new here, all that good YouTube stuff. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next trailer.